appear on the live stream
Got phone down.
once we go more public. So if I can confirm that you have read it, having very helpfully just started coughing a little bit.
Hard to shake off these coughs.
We will
Shall I?
be beginning our service now, so I want to wish Shabbat Shalom to everyone and
Shalom.
welcome those who are on Zoom and those who are joining our service via one of the streaming services that we can use. Welcome you to our Erev Shabbat service, and we're going to be sharing in the second Friday evening service, which is on page 75 for those of you who have your Siddur at home and wish to follow. But I'm grateful to June, who is going to be both the host leading us through the liturgy this evening, and also will be kindling the Shabbat candles for our community this evening. So we begin on page 75.
You shall call the Sabbath a delight. These lights we kindle are a symbol of joy. May their brightness lift our spirits and fill our hearts with happiness and peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvato v'tzivonu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. The Sabbath has descended to enfold us in its mantle of peace. It brings to us the precious gift of time to embrace family and friends, time to reflect more deeply on the meaning and purpose of our lives, and to worship in the beauty of holiness. May our Sabbaths always be sanctuaries of love and devotion, and bring contentment and happiness to our homes and blessing to our people. And I've got terrible trouble with my candle. Oh, come on. I'm sorry. I'll have to deal with, oh, yeah, we're okay now.
That's lovely. Thank you, June. And this Shabbat, we welcome the Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Borechem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As we move to the top of the next page, page 77, we come to one more of the Shabbat Psalms that traditionally are part of the Kabbalat Shabbat service. And I wonder if Ruth and Stuart, you might like to share responsively in leading this psalm for us.
Thank you, Richard.
The Eternal One reigns, let the earth rejoice.
Let the many isles be glad.
Clouds and darkness surround you.
Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne.
Your lightnings illumine the world.
The earth sees and trembles
Mountains melt like wax before you, O God.
before the ruler of all the earth,
The heavens proclaim your righteousness.
and all the peoples behold your glory.
Zion hears and is glad,
The daughters of Judah rejoice in your judgments.
for you are supreme over all the earth.
You are exalted far above all other gods,
Light dawns for the righteous.
and joy for the upright in heart.
Let the righteous rejoice in you.
And give thanks to your holy name. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Yedid nefesh av harachaman mishoch avdecha el retzonecha yarutz avdecha komo hayal yishtachave el mul hadarecha Yerav lo yedidotecha minofet suf v'chol tam Igalena ufros havivi alai et sukat shalomach ta'ir eretz mikvodecha nagila v'nismacha bach maher ahuv kiva moed v'chonenu ki me'olam. And as we conclude our Kabbalat Shabbat service and we move into our Erev Shabbat service, we move in our Siddur to page 92, and there we can join in the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach. Adonai, Hamevorach, Hamevorach, le'olam va'ed. Hamevorach, Hamevorach, le'olam va'ed. We celebrate the joy of creation and the evening that we're part of. Perhaps I could invite Amy, if you would, to lead us through this prayer. In English or Hebrew is fine.
What did he say? We praise you, Eternal One, our God, Sovereign of the universe, whose word brings on the evening, whose wisdom opens heaven's gates, whose understanding changes times and seasons, and whose will sets the stars in their courses in the sky. You make day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light. You make day pass and bring on the night and separate day from night. You rule the hosts of heaven. We praise you, O God, whose word makes evening full.
Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amecha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Pukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadata Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbenu Kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki heim chayenu Ve'orech yameinu Uvahem nekeyomam balayla Nekeyomam balayla Ve'ahavatecha al tasu Mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael Ohev amo Yisrael Come now to the Shema. We'll join in reading the opening line and then we'll sing the first two lines of the Shema together. And then wonder if perhaps Gary and Helen, you would share the reading of the Ve'ahavta paragraph in Hebrew and in English. So we say together, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Eternal One is our God, the Eternal God is one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod, Shem Kavod, Malchuto, Leolam, Leolam Vaed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וחסרתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. You shall love the Eternal One your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Let these words which I command you this day be always in your heart. Teach them diligently to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be like frontlets between your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thank you.
Thank you both. Leman tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kadoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. Tony Kirsten will continue.
Emet ve'emunah kol zot v'kayam aleinu ki hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ein zulato ve'anachnu Yisrael amo hapodeinu miyad melachim hago aleinu mikav kol ha'aritzim v'yotze et amo Yisrael mitzrayim l'charut olam v'a'u banav v'vuratav shibachu v'hodu lishmo v'malchuto keratzon קיבלו עליהם, לך אנו שירה ושמחה רבה ואמרו כולם.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. I wonder, Rad, if you might like to lead us through this special prayer in our evening service.
Grant, eternal God, that we may lie down in peace and let us rise up to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your wise counsel, and for your name's sake be our help. Shield us from sickness and war, from famine and distress, and keep us from wrongdoing. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you are our guardian and deliverer, a gracious and merciful God. Guard our going out and our coming in, that now and always we may have life and peace. We praise you, O God. May your sheltering peace descend on us and all who dwell on earth.
Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu va'al kol yoshvei tevel. Come to the tefillah, and as we join in the opening meditation, which asks that God open our lips so that our mouths may declare God's praise, we'll join together, and then I wonder if perhaps Nick, who's holding the streaming for us this evening, would also lead us in the opening paragraph of the tefillah before Simon takes us through the Gevurot paragraph that follows. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agit tehilatecha. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agit tehilatecha.
Baruch atah Adonai, Elokeinu ve'Elokei Avotenu ve'Imotenu, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, ve'Elokei Yaakov, Elokei Sarah, Elokei Rivka, Elokei Rachel, ve'Elokei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, v'Konech Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Ima Achot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניכם, למען שמו באחווה. מלך חוזר ומשיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. We praise you, O God, shield of Abraham and protector of Sarah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל.
מחלחל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים ומנצל לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדבר לך, מלך מימיץ ומחיי ומצמיח ישוע. ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayei hametim. We praise you, O God, source of eternal life.
Thank you both. Kadosh atah v'norah shemecha, ve'ein lanu Eloah mibaladecha. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. We praise you, eternal one, the holy God. As we continue with a short theme within our service about the Shabbat, I could ask Tina if you'd be happy to lead us in this next passage.
Thank you, O God, for this Sabbath day, which calls us to a closer communion with you. Though you are near to us at all times, you reveal your presence most clearly when we direct our thoughts towards you in worship and meditation. In you, O God, our humanity is exalted. You are our life. From you come its greatness, its power, its beauty. Establish in us, we humbly pray, a devotion to you that shall be firm in all the circumstances of life. May this service renew in our hearts the sense of your presence and bring us peace.
Thank you. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. And the final part in this service of our celebration of the sanctification and the joy of Shabbat, we come to the intermediate prayers of the Tefillah with this passage that Miriam is going to read for us.
Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, v'tzegim nuchatenu, kachenu b'mitzvotecha, v'tein chelkenu b'toratecha, sabenu mituvecha, v'samchenu b'shuatecha, v'tahei libenu li'ovdecha bi'emet, v'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu b'ahava v'rotzon Shabbat kodshecha, v'yanuchu v'Yisrael v'kadshei shemecha, Baruch atah Adonai v'kadesh haShabbat. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath.
Thank you, Miriam. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amcha Yisrael, u'tefilatam ba'ahava t'kabel, u'tehi l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, sha'otecha levadcha b'yira na'avod. We praise you, O God, whom alone we worship in reverence. And I wonder, Barbara, I can see that you're sitting with Amy there, and I wonder if you might be happy to lead us through this prayer that follows, which is about thanksgiving and gratitude. We give thanks.
Sorry.
Can you unmute, please, Amy?
Rabbi, you're on mute.
No, I am. Is it?
Is that right?
Yeah.
There we go.
Give thanks. I'll start again. We give thanks that you, Eternal One, are our God, as you were the God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age. We thank and praise you for our lives, which are in your hand, for our souls, which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. We praise you, O God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due.
Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yira na'avod. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai, Osei Hashalom. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. Let's all take a moment or two for our own thoughts and prayers and meditations. You may wish to read the prayer that is on the page in front of you on the screen and continues on to the next page, or simply take time for your own thoughts and prayers. Osei Shalom bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Bnei Adam. Before we move forward in our service, we're going to take a couple of moments to reflect on those both within our community, relatives and friends of our members, but also people in the wider world who are going through times of illness or other difficulty. And so at this point in our service, we're going to pause and ask for them and for all who need it. What we say in Hebrew should be a refuah shlema, a complete or unified or coming together in the sense of healing. And as this service is being streamed, we're not going to mention any individual names out loud, but we are going to, for those who are on Zoom, if you wish to add them to the chat, you can do. But we're going to encourage all who wish to take a moment to consider and to treat as a call to be God's hands and God's feet in the world as we experience it, by making ourselves available to support in whatever way we wish those who are going through times of illness or other difficulty. And so while we do that, we'll share a prayer for healing in song. And wherever you are, if you wish to join in, please do. Mishabera avotenu Makor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu Makor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. In our service this evening, I've drawn attention to some of the prayers that have to do with Shabbat. And we'll pause for a moment before we come to the concluding prayers, June. So you can take off the share for now. Thank you. And welcoming Shabbat as it is dark outside, and as we had the candles, once they finally cooperated and lit for June this evening, to both show that we were, as tradition tells us, with the first candle remembering Shabbat, and with the second candle observing Shabbat. And of course, being a liberal synagogue, we don't define our observance of Shabbat by strict adherence to rules that were conjured up from ancient tradition, and which the rabbis of the first century indeed changed themselves to take Shabbat from being a time in the week where on a Friday night, on that Erev Shabbat, as it got dark, people were expected to stay in the dark, that they couldn't kindle any lights and couldn't even indeed have any lights on at all. There was a view back then that perhaps you shouldn't have a light lingering on from before Shabbat into the evening. And so it was the rabbis who commanded that Shabbat should be an oneg, should be celebrated with joy, and therefore 2 candles could be lit, 2 lights could be on in the house. And it's very likely, why 2 candles for Shabbat? Because one room in ancient houses would have been their living room, kitchen, all that encompassed into one. And the second candle would have been taken through to their bedroom, their sleeping area for the family. And so 2 was a functional number. In the 21st century, we're very fortunate, many of us, that our homes aren't just 2 rooms. We have more rooms than that. But I can see that in every room, quite rightly, we've got lights on and we're not sitting in the dark and enslaving ourselves with that adherence of Shabbat. Instead, we're following what is the practice of Judaism over thousands of years, to update as society itself updates. And in that way, I think we as progressive Jews can claim to be continuing the long tradition of Judaism, of updating our practice, of staying with what science, technology, knowledge of the world allows us to understand as being the way the world is, instead of staying with a vision of how things were a few hundred or 1,000 years ago. And so I popped a question or a sentence to be completed by those of you who wish to into the chat, because in many ways Shabbat, what Shabbat means to us, is going to be different from what previous generations and previous centuries meant by Shabbat. Originally, of course, when people worked a full 6 days of the week, Shabbat was the only day they might rest. And so Shabbat Menucha would be a theme. The Shabbat of our song earlier, Shalom Aleichem, was the idea that we would welcome the angels into our lives on Shabbat. Lecha Dodi, that we didn't sing this evening, but which we often sing, is about welcoming the Sabbath as a bride into our lives and getting our tables prepared as if we're welcoming a queen, the bride or the queen. But what does Shabbat mean for us nowadays? I was discussing this with one of our members, and we were talking about it in the context of, does it mean to have a space where we can escape from our worries of the world, our worldly concerns? Perhaps the one day in the week when we might actively switch off or not follow the news or media, or not pay any attention to alerts that might come on our phones or other systems that tell us what's going on in the world and drag us back to the everyday life. We might want to escape from that world and just have a little bit of time to be, to allow our minds and our souls to be refreshed. Shabbat vayinafash, as the text might say. Rest as God rested and was refreshed. At the end of this creation, we're therefore imitating God. All those are possibilities. For many rabbis, they will see Shabbat as a busy time, a time of leading services and also perhaps paying attention to who's present in the congregation, who's missing, who might not be well, and so on. But before we continue, I wonder if anyone wishes to contribute their own sentiment about what is it that Shabbat means to you, if you're here on Zoom, and you can offer that by unmuting or by writing into chat and making a contribution to our thoughts about the variety of things that Shabbat can mean to us as we gather to both welcome it and celebrate its arrival in our service this evening. If we weren't, thank you. I've got Amy here and Barbara here, and I wonder if you'd like to start, and also Ruth and Stuart here. So perhaps Ruth and Stuart, if you want to go first, and then Amy, stay unmuted. I'll come to you next.
Oh, thanks, Richard. Well, it gives us a chance to all meet and see everyone together, the community, which is lovely. With a larger number or smaller number, just to see everyone's well. At the moment, virtually, but soon, hopefully, next month, actually starting to get together in person, which is wonderful. And not count the week's news, but interpret it maybe in different ways. When we chat and we look at the Torah portion or whatever, and there's always something that's relevant to the week and may allow us to look at things in different ways. Yeah. Someone, I don't know whether it's agreement or objection. Anyway, thanks. Yeah, so that it's just lovely to be together in whatever way, and give a bit of thinking time. So thanks.
Thank you both. That's a lovely contribution. And Barbara and Amy, you were muted just now. I think family noise in the background, but what's your response to that sentence?
For me, it's just a pause in the week. So, and I really, really appreciate that. So. That's a very significant word, just at that opportunity to pause, and in some ways to stop things and leave them, and know that yes, you may need to come back to them. And the marking of time, like a pause and the marking of time, the marking of weeks. Thank you for that. Yeah. I don't know, Barbara, was there anything you wanted to add?
For me, unfortunately, it isn't always the pause that I'd like it to be, but I'm conscious that I'm working to it. It's been a long time working towards it.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that, both for its honesty and also for the fact that we are human, and that Shabbat may well not be ever perfect for us, but it's partly about aspiring towards something, and partly it's about making moments of Shabbat, even if the whole time that we set aside as Shabbat can't all be precious to us. At least there might be a little glimpse at some point, just a little, that we can build on, which would be enough. Thank you both. That's lovely. And is there anyone else who would like to contribute some thoughts about Shabbat? Yes, Tina.
Yeah, for me, it's always, whatever else is going on, this has always brought calm, a feeling of calm and meditation. And I agree with what Amy was saying, that pause, whatever else, it kind of separates the end of one week to the beginning of the next. So it's just that nice sort of feeling that you can take a breath and whatever, just have this nice peaceful time before getting back into the next week. And as Stuart said, it's so lovely, like, to be with everyone like this or in person and see everybody, and it just makes Shabbat special.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you. I think you voiced some feelings there that I'm sure other people also would echo very strongly. I'm just going to wait for a second if anyone else would like to add something. And
Miriam has her hand up.
yes, sorry, I missed that. Yes, Miriam, do contribute, please.
Well, it just brings back memories of me, these Friday nights I would have at home with my parents and my family. And all the people that I used to share it with are missing, unfortunately, but it brings them all back with nice memories.
That's a very powerful statement, because I think probably a lot of us will also conjure up Shabbat in decades gone by and in different ages of our lives and stages in our lives. And that's also part of what can be brought back to mind from, you know, how the mannerisms when people would light the candles or make kiddush, or how the challah would be broken or cut or whatever the minhag was, and so on. So I think that's a very powerful addition you've brought to us. Thank you, Miriam. That's really helpful. And I hope many of those memories are happy ones, that we can celebrate. Nick, I wonder if you'd just like to voice what you've put into chat so that everyone can benefit from it, because I think there's wisdom in that as well.
So yeah, to me, Shabbat is about reconnecting to the universe, to our God, to family, to the important things, and above all, hopefully, to ourselves as well.
Thank you, Nick. That's lovely. And I could see that, Rad, you were agreeing with that sentence and that sentiment exactly. And that sense of reconnecting. And very often I feel that one of the themes that binds all the different contributions together is that it gives us an opportunity to remind ourselves of who we can be and who we aspire to be. And sometimes we see that and hear that in what other people have been doing and what they bring, and we're reminded of that by, as Stuart and Ruth said, the Torah portion and the way in which it relates to our current lives. And hopefully Shabbat helps us be that little bit better than we might have been, or just even better than we were. So that's lovely. Thank you all so much. And the reason I can tell you that we're for having these thoughts this evening is because when we come to our Torah portion tomorrow, which we'll be studying, part of that Torah portion that we'll be looking at in our community includes the text of the Vishamru that we sang a little bit earlier, that we will be focusing a little bit on Shabbat. And sometimes, as with the text of the Vishamru, that can be joyous and bouncy and happy, and at other times that can be more reflective and calm and quiet. And Shabbat has the opportunity to be those times of happy, bright joy on the one hand, and calm, reflective recuperation and recharging of batteries. And the same Shabbat can be that whole variety of things for different people. So whichever way that you are finding this Shabbat, I hope it is a time that brings you reconnection, space, pause, all those words that people have just used, and that at the end of Shabbat we can feel in some way that we, as the text of Genesis chapter 2 said, we emulate God in resting and being refreshed. Shavat vayinafash. Amen. Let's come to our concluding prayers, which are on page 520 in the Siddur, page 520. And after we've opened the text on that page, when we come to the passages on page 521, maybe I could come to Bev and Len and invite you to lead us through the paragraphs on page 521 that begin trusting in you. So for now we'll begin together. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו ליחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. As we come to our next page, I'm hoping that Len and Bev, you might be able to
Eternal God, we hope soon to behold the glory of your might, when false gods will vanish from our hearts and idolatry cease forever. Help us to perfect the world by bringing it under your angelic rule. When all invoke your name, relinquish evil and turn to you alone. May all who dwell on earth come to know that every knee must bend and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you let them humble themselves, and to your glorious name let them give honor. Let all submit to your sovereign rule. May that time come soon and last forever. For ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity you will reign in glory. As it is written, the Eternal One shall reign forever.
And it has been said, the eternal God shall rule over all the earth. On that day the eternal God shall be one and known to be one. Bayom hahu Yehyeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. At the foot of page 522 that we're coming to now. The growing good of the world is partly dependent on unhistoric acts, and that things are not so ill with you and me as they might have been, is half owing to the number who lived faithfully a hidden life, and who rest in unvisited tombs. Even when they are gone, the departed are with us. They inspire us to live as, in their higher moments, they themselves sought to live. We remember them now, and in particular the mother of Eliyahu ben Shabbat, who sadly passed away just a week ago today, and Eliyahu, I believe, is in Israel at the moment, while as his family will have just concluded Shiva for his mother. On the occasion of Yartzites, we also join with Lynn Jacobi, who's been marking the Yartzeit of her mother, Lillian Walton. We join with Bernice Wolfe in remembering her father, Israel Borden. Bernard Young, who's remembering his brother, Sidney Young. Phil Casson, who is remembering his father, Lewis Casson. Eddie Ruttman is remembering his brother, Victor. Sue Nathanson is remembering her nephew, James Foe. David Goldman is remembering his mother, Zelda Goldman. Stephanie Kirstein is remembering her partner, Barry Graham, whose first Yartzeit this is. As a community we are remembering Ronald Islin, who died this time last year. And indeed, having mentioned the Ben Shabbat family, Roz Ben Shabbat is remembering her father, Michael Shapiro, at the time of his Yartzeit. And Graham Lancer and his daughter Amanda are remembering wife and mother Anne Lancer, whose Yartzeit also falls in the coming days. And if there is anyone else who should be remembered, there is a moment to unmute yourselves if you wish to, and add their names so that we can remember them before we come to the Kaddish. But for all those that we have named out loud already, we pray that all that was good in their lives remains in our hearts, and that their memory may indeed be a source of continual blessing. Zichronam livracha. And as I'm not seeing any additional names, let's move to page 524, where we can join in the words of the Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'miru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach la'olam al-almei al-maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ah v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudusha b'richu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran ba'alma v'miru amen. Yehei shalama Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'miru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei Adam, v'miru amen. Before we conclude, and I'll suggest a concluding song that we'll sing in keeping with our celebration of Shabbat in just a minute. I think Stuart will be offering the announcements for our community.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and thanks to Richard for leading the service, and to Nick and June for hosting, and everyone who took part. Thank you. Tomorrow's morning service begins at 10:45, and it's a study session led by Rabbi Richard. And on Sunday at 7:30, our quizzes are back, our Sunday night quizzes, first one for quite a while, and it's been written out by Hilary Barkley and her daughter Francesca. Details are on the website. Please register. And been the first for a while, so it'd be nice to have a nice crowd back and taking part. 11s runs every weekday morning from sensibly 11 o'clock, and for discussion and chat, and it's always on a very wide range of interesting issues. Next Shabbat morning, next Saturday, is a special service held at the Liberal Jewish Synagogue, marking the beginning of the 120th anniversary year of Liberal Judaism. Then we have to register for the event, and all details on the update, along with lots of other events coming up. So have a look. As was mentioned earlier, services back in the building are starting in March, and the opportunity is also on the update to start to register for them, because we still need to be careful. Still want to have concern for everyone's health, so have to have some sort of control on numbers. But please register, and I'm sure our office and everything will sort it all out. The services will be hybrid, so they'll still be available to watch in this form as well. Wishing long life to Lynn and to all who mourn. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Take care. Thank you. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Stuart. And in keeping with what we have been talking about with regard to Shabbat, I'm going to suggest that we conclude with Yom Zeli Israel, which is on page 644. And thank you, June, for taking us rapidly there. And many of us will know the kind of loud and raucous and joyous singing of Yom Zeli Israel, and that can conjure up one mood of Shabbat for us. I'm going to suggest we share in just the latter half of this song. So we'll go down towards just over halfway down the page, and we'll share in the final verse. But we'll also, I hope you'll bear with me as we sing this song with a different mood. Yom Zeli Yisrael, Ora v'simcha, Shabbat Menucha, Shabbat Menucha, Kidashta Berachta, Oto Mikol Yamim, B'sheshet Kilita Melechet Olamim, Bo Matzu Agumim, Ashketu V'itcha, Shabbat Menucha. Yom Zeli Yisrael, Ora v'simcha, Shabbat Menucha, Shabbat Menucha. Yom Zeli Yisrael, Ora v'simcha, Shabbat Menucha, Shabbat Menucha, Shabbat Menucha. And that final verse reminds us that when the work of creating the world was done, God chose this day to be hallowed and blessed, that those heavy laden find safety and stillness, the Sabbath of rest. May this be such a Sabbath for all of us. And so we come together to conclude our service with the Erev Shabbat Kiddush, which is on page 564, page 564. And I hope that each of you has got some wine or something else with which to celebrate the Shabbat as we join together. Vayichulu hashamayim v'aretz v'chol tzva'am, vayichal Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa. Vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i vayikadesh oto, ki vo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim lasot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, b'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-shabbat. Amen. L'chaim to everyone. And to conclude our formalities, invite everyone to reach out from one screen to another, from one household to the next, from one media format to another, and so that we can say to and sing together our thanksgiving for the sustenance that we receive. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Thank you to all who joined us over the stream. We wish you well over Shabbat and beyond, and to everyone on Zoom as we conclude